How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I'm going to go and do, it's just a mission really, just to fix a bridge called North City Bridge. It's not too bad. I need 2 lots of metal beams. I kind of messed up the footage a bit at the start, that's why it's a bit weirder than normal. But yeah, I've got to go and get like metal beams from the top corner, take it to that bridge. So instead of going the normal route, because I could have kind of followed up that road, I've kind of drawn a path, yeah, going off to the left really, cutting up that way. I knew it'd end up being a bit longer. That's what she said. But yeah, I just to change the scenery, I just left this bit of footage in because I was bringing this here to get a trailer and that. I was going to squeeze it through the gap there, and then I thought, well, I'll drift it around here to kind of get it facing the way I want. And it didn't drift or anything there, and I wasn't too fussed on obviously just turning around anyway. But about now, I was thinking, the Voron grad, I reckon, would have been able to drift that corner. And that's one of the reasons I like the Voron. So I was about to get a trailer, and then I was like, nope. Back to the garage, found a Voron grad, built one, because I couldn't be bothered figuring out where I left the last one. Yeah, and give it a go. So you drop it into high, floor it, get a nice little drift. It makes the corners. I was just one of them, because I'm in the Voron AE, I kind of figured, I know the Voron grad would make that, and I need to try it. See, now with that wool, you think it's going to hit, but you give it a bit of juice, and it makes it round. But if you go too mad, it will kick and do that. But you see, plot twist game, I'm in the garage. That's where I wanted to be. Yeah, back to the Voron AE. So this time I'm actually pulling out the garage and going left instead. Bit of a drift with a trailer already. I decided in the end to take this sideboard trailer. I kind of had a choice really. Well, I had a few options. I could have put a sideboard on the Voron and taken a ramped flatbed, because I only need 2 lots of metal beams. That's only 4 slots of cargo in total. The saddle low, because that's got like a sorry, the step deck even, because that's got like a little loaf platform, and it's still got enough for 5 slots, but it's quite a long trailer, and I kind of knew the route I'm going, and it's a bit boggy and muddy. The step deck sits a little bit lower. Yeah, just this trailer seems to be more compact in general, and I kind of know, even though at the minute how the loaf sat in there, 4 lots of cargo won't fit in, but we've dealt with that issue before. We'll get around that. I didn't actually put a crane on this in the end. I also wasn't really paying too much attention now. Ended up tipping. You see, Loaf knows what he's doing. He bailed out, so I didn't tip all the way. But then I wanted to Loaf in. See, look, he doesn't start, but then you see him moving a little bit, and the menu's up at the minute, so it wouldn't let me start the engine. But you see, just if he doesn't start, you're not turning the key hard enough. Put a winch on him. I just wanted to go for the lazy rescue, so I could just pack him back in the trailer without too much hassle. But this Voron, yeah, I kind of figured it was going to spring back. It did, so I thought, right, plan B. I'm going to winch, just delicately, winch him back into the trailer. So now when I winch the Voron, he'll kind of tip with me. Gotta go easy on it when he's in. Yeah, now kind of Spider-Man swing. Sorry, I've got a bloody hair on my mouth. That's what. Off my cat. But yeah, we got saved down to that one. Get the load packed back in. We're good to go. Nice thing at least with this Voron AE. Like overall, I know this is objectively a very good truck. The main thing I'm not as keen on it about is the steering feels very slow. Kind of, yeah, just not as keen on it. I mean, I suppose drifting in that yard as an example, this thing just takes a while to steer. I even fed the steering in early, dropped it in high, tried to drift the back end round, but it essentially resulted in understeer and kind of skidded into those tyres. Yeah, by comparison, the Voron grad just kicks the back end out a lot better. I still remember flying out the garage in Northport and drifting out of the entrance to there, and I already knew I liked it. Yeah, I kind of nearly went the wrong way there. Last second, we sort of remembered. I don't know why I'm talking in third person, but I am. Because I've got a goddamn horse on me, that is probably why. So this truck, I noticed as well tonight, as far as like the high gear goes and all the rest of it, it kind of was getting going in high gear then when it was picking up speed, but sometimes it kind of stays in high. You can get it to where it'll bog down in the mud, but it'll wheel spin instead of kick you out of high gear. But then sometimes as you get more grip and go to set off, that's when it kind of suddenly has a lull in power, and it kind of then does the, you know, it's about to stall and all the rest of it. Yeah, overall I've certainly had, like that Phoenix yesterday, for example, that's way more lenient as far as like just letting you stay in high gear, and it doesn't really have a lull in the power or anything. And I believe I've got the chained on, which I think give you like a bit more grip in certain situations, but that may not, like with the engine and all the rest of it, say the trailer and everything I've got just averaged out, it may even be better to get muds, because I tend to find they actually grip a little bit less. I think the speed may be a little bit more in muddy situations and stuff, but it might actually pan out that slight less grip kind of allows it to wheel spin enough to where it doesn't suddenly dig in and then the power kind of all drops out of it. Needs a little bit more torque, I reckon. And again, the Voron Grad, the only objective reason I'd say with the Voron Grad is diffs kind of engageable. This has got diffs always on, so at least in auto you have got diffs going. It's possibly a reason why, but nonetheless, the Grad is a very nice handling truck. And I'll be bringing it out at some point pretty soon. I'll find a mission to use that one. I possibly would have switched to it tonight. It was just for the fact that I've not been this way on the map before, but I did come down the other way when I was originally exploring the map, and I just at least remember that this was like quite a muddy, boggy area that's not exactly going to be yeah, flying through in 30 seconds, and the fact that I'm going to have a trailer, etc. That's why I sort of picked the Voron AE. I knew it's certainly in the higher end of trucks, like performance wise. It's one of them as well, because when you look at it in the menu, it's got 43-inch tyres, but you can actually like up them to 50, which, I mean, gaining 7 inches, you can't really complain at that. That's actually not bad. A lot of vehicles kind of go up a few inches, but normally if you see 43 inches of stock tyre, it's like, yeah, it's probably going to be 47, 48 if you're lucky, kind of thing, as the next size up. But yeah, this thing actually does have quite decent sized tyres for how small the vehicle is in general. I think 50, it's got to be around the Dolphin, all that sort of stuff. That might have 51, I can't remember, but yeah, it's still on the good end. Like I say, the step toe or step 310, whatever it is, I think that's like 47s is probably, but that's probably 43 when you like buy it, but you can only go up to 47, something like that anyway, ballpark. Yeah, so that ends up having like on the slightly smaller end, but this will do. It'll get the job done. You can see though, this is definitely a bit more of a boggy, kind of windy area. There wasn't really, I suppose it'd be interesting. I don't think it'd be necessarily rapid, and probably still would pan out slower than this, but I wonder how that Kenworth, on its own maybe, without kind of a big trailer and all the rest of it. Because that's one of them vehicles, it's definitely slow, and I reckon it could do more power and all that, but because it's got massive tyres, it probably would kind of roll over this kind of mud more than necessarily through it, unless they've just done it where they've coded it so it doesn't matter what vehicle you've got, it'll just force you into like first gear and not really give you many revs. Oh yeah, also while I remember, pretty kind of exciting news as far as SnowRunner and all that goes. Cheers to, where's my phone? Is it Polly Song? And I believe Jessa Phillips as well. There's apparently a new game. I've kind of been a little bit busy tonight. I've not had, I've read the comments, but I've not replied to them yet. Apparently there's a new game called Expedition. Saying it's almost the same looking UI, which I believe is like the user interface, so the screen, sort of the gearbox, I assume, looks pretty similar, and map controls, sometime next year released. They've seen on a Gamescom stream. Yeah, a Mud Runner game. The trailer is on YouTube. I really like some of the new things shown in it. Customizable roof rack, mobile anchor, and apparently it looks like they're keeping a lot of the old trucks, so hopefully be able to get a goddamn horse. Which is good news. If so, I'll be gutted. If they don't have a horse, someone hopefully have to beg somebody to mod it into it. Yeah, but I haven't even heard anything about it. It kind of just, a few people have said there is essentially like a new game. I assume it's going to be it's supposed to be, you know, the actual next one from SnowRunner, but whether it's being called, you know, SnowRunner Expedition, I don't know. That's just what I've heard. Again, not really looked up on it. Apparently, though, there is a video on YouTube. I'll be looking at it myself, possibly after this video. But yeah, just, again, appreciate the people. Let me know, and yeah, I just sort of want to pass it on because I've not heard sod all about it, and yeah, that's pretty good news, I reckon. Overall, I mean, certainly versus you know, once we've got, say, season 3 out of the way, I don't think they should do a season 4 because I think this game's done bloody well. To be 3.5 odd years old is kind of, that is bloody old in modern gaming years, really. Like back in the day, I remember playing, you know, Super Mario and GoldenEye and all that sort of stuff for years on end. But I would say these days most games have a sort of shelf life really of like 6 months to a year. And then enough people, you know, have completed it. Obviously, they do games where they're releasing DLC. There's exceptions and all sorts. I mean, this being one of them. You know, Grand Theft Auto, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I just think it'd be nice by now if they do a new game. Again, like the user interface, the tweaks, you know, having customizable roof racks, if that's the case, that's cool. And I think we've all kind of said it to a degree before that that'd be a nice option. I've also said, I think, like if you were able to have cargo, but you could kind of pack it as repair points or fuel and actually have, you know, 5 slots of whether you want to do 3 repair points, you know, or 3 lots, and 2 lots of fuel or whatever, kind of have, yeah, sort of not customizable cargo, but cargo that could potentially be, yeah, repairs and fuel and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I just think it would be good to like refresh the game in general. There's, I mean, from MudRunner to SnowRunner was a bloody big leap. MudRunner is a brilliant game for back when it came out and all the rest of it. Yeah, it was, and it still is. But there's, yeah, I certainly prefer the way SnowRunner's laid out. Like, you know, you're on a map, there's 20, 30 different missions or whatever. MudRunner, it was kind of the same. You've pretty much got 1 login mission per map, and then you go on it, obviously do it. And once you've completed it, there's not really a lot else to do on the map. If you quit and come out the game, you can, I believe you can like save so you could load back up onto it, but there was just not a lot to do. Yeah, I just left this bit in. I wasn't paying too much attention. I kind of crossed. You can see the camera kind of flying around at the last second, followed by panic winches. Yeah, disconnect the trailer, reconnected it. That just shifted me over enough to start the engine. Just another thing. While it happened on video, I thought I'll leave it in just to show you kind of. Yeah, if you do tip and get in this situation, because you see at the minute the Loaf's propped up on the trailer, so he wouldn't have even fired up his engine. But he's goddamn professional. He probably judged it as he fell out. Long story short, I was trying to get the Loaf into the trailer and it was doing alright, but the camera angles were horrific because I'm on such a steep hill. It just kept flinging the camera around. It was driving me mad. So in the end, I kind of scrapped it all. I actually quit and reloaded at one point because I wanted to have another go at the top of the hill of jumping the Loaf back in, but I quickly just, the camera angles were driving me mad to where I didn't even bother doing that in the end. So you can see like the footage kind of cut back in. I apologise now, by the way. I mean, it's still the video, but I just think the footage, it's a bit scruffy this last half. I was kind of, I don't know, when you're getting footage for a video, I kind of try and be a bit more fluent and all the rest of it with the footage, so it's not really choppy with the editing and all that. I think now I just started messing around. I was having fun messing around with the Loaf. Long story short, instead of trying to get him in the trailer on that hill where it's a steep angle, and it's just, the steep angle doesn't help, but it's just more the camera was driving me mad. Because it just kept spinning around, and there was a rock near me that the camera just kept slamming into that, and then I couldn't really see what I was doing, but I was kind of mid winching and turning and all the rest of it. So I decided just to drag the Loaf down here because I knew the yard here was flat, so I could kind of test for my own amusement, if nothing else, getting the Loaf back in the trailer just when the ground is generally flat, so the camera's not being a pain. Yeah, tip the Loaf over, step 1. Put a winch from like the middle of the trailer to the middle of the Loaf, but the high side of it. Drive forward, flick his back end up. Starts first time every time. Well, nearly every time. Oh, he's in. Once his back wheels pop up like that, you know you're on the home straight. You don't want to build up too much tension there, so when you release the winch it will kind of fire him forward. It can sometimes tip the trailer as well. Stick a winch to the side of the Loaf, reverse, drop the hammer, goddamn horse. I think that's, yeah, I did cut the footage out. I just reversed and bumped his back wheels over the back of the trailer, so he's kind of hanging out. Now I can fit 2 lots of metal beams in with a few inches to spare, that's what she said. Yeah, that's it. All I need, 2 lots of them. I believe at some point I kind of stuck a winch from the middle of the trailer to the front of the Loaf. In theory, I could mess around. Kind of, if I pull him forward at the minute, his bumper's going to hook on those metal beams. I could faff around with the trees around me and climb up onto the metal beams, but in all honesty, putting a winch from the middle of the trailer to the Loaf now, he just keeps the weight lower. He's hanging out at the back. It's all good. Yeah, you can see like there, the turning circle's not the best on this truck. Again, for a small truck and all the rest of it, I could argue, I'm sure, it's probably better turning circle, for example, say, than that Kenworth. But the Kenworth's just a bigger truck, I already expect that to be pretty terrible. This is certainly, there's trucks like the Taiga, for example, the original Taiga. It's kind of the opposite end of the scale to this, has really good quick steering by comparison. And then yeah, cutting along here, not too far to go now really, once I've got the metal beams. I have left, is that, yeah, Mac Defence and a goddamn professional, just chilling in the swamp, so I need to go around them. And really, I mean, I'm good because I've got the Loaf with me, but I could have poached a bit of fuel off them since I kind of sat there doing nothing. The option was available. You see here, I mean, I put one of the best bumpers on as in it sits highest. The front did well to climb up there, even it went straight up the middle as well, which I didn't, that's what she said, I didn't have to go to the sides, like I did with some of the previous trucks I brought here, but once it got to the rear axle, I think, one, at this angle, it's kind of lifting my front off the ground, so that wasn't even really biting in much anymore. And yeah, it was just too much weight for like the tyres to bite in and lift the trailer up and all the rest of it, so I ended up doing a winch to that telegraph pole. Now the trailer beached, I let off the accelerator at sort of the most inconvenient moment, as far as like, I bled all my speed and momentum just as the trailer beached. Had I just kept it pinned, it might have helped, but long story short, I just fired a winch out. And yeah, we got it there. At this section of road, I mean, you get bits where you can see this truck's in high gear. You see, it just runs out of juice a little bit easier than I think quite a few of the trucks do. It's not necessarily not a powerful truck, it's just, it definitely sort of leans on the side of, yeah, it doesn't really like to, it wants enough room to kind of wind up into high. And it's more, yeah, when you go from like wheel spinning to grip again, where the speed normally, like, you get a bit of a whoosh of speed, that's where it really doesn't like it, it seems. Whereas again, like the Voron Grad, for example, would, yeah, pretty much just wheel spin and drift and all the rest of it until you get that whoosh of speed, and then it's all good. That's a very lenient truck as well. That was like the original, even the way that they sort of nerf and cap the gearboxes and the revs and all sorts. The Voron Grad, I don't know if it just escaped or if they, you know, say did rev caps on it, but it just didn't pan out and it's not listening to it. It just seems like it doesn't really have any rev caps. It doesn't feel like it's been tampered with. Feels quite, to me anyway, like quite natural how it gives you the engine power and all the rest of it. And yeah, the result is a nice little bit of drifting if you want it to. You can obviously put a slower gearbox in it, and I don't really do. I put high range in. That's one of my favourite trucks to have high range in, to be honest. It's one of my favourite vehicles. I think that still probably still makes my top 10. If not, it's easily still. I mean, they have released some DLC trucks since then, so there might be one or two that's shifted around, but overall I did make a top 10 kind of trucks video. And yeah, even if one or two of them have been bumped out the top 10 by default now, they're still definitely pretty high up there. As I don't think there's any I've really changed my mind on as like my favourite trucks. There's just a few. Yeah, the Phoenix is newer, obviously the Zik 605R, I think we might have already had that when I did the top 10, but if we didn't, that's definitely going to be in like top 3 somewhere probably. Even that Mac Defence and that Kenworth, I don't think they'd make my top 10 favourite or anything, but overall I like them. I think they're a pretty decent pair of DLC vehicles they've given us in a phase compared to, I mean, again, when we were mentioning it the other week on a live stream, Phase 7 was like the Gore by 4 and the Sprinter was a pretty, I don't use either of them. Yeah, the Loaf, he kind of slipped out the back, so he just hangs on. I mean, this is one of the reasons I liked him back in the day. He's goddamn professional. He will now hang on to that sideboard for dear life. You don't have to worry about him. I mean, it looks from the camera, it looks like he's not in there, but Trust me, he is. I've been telling women that for years, but they never listen. Don't even have to worry about him. Pull up here, spin the camera around. Of course he's there. Metal beams, I think we actually get a little animation for this one. And I gotta be honest, it's not even particularly a useful bridge. I was gonna say it's kind of an inconsequential mission, but I suppose you actually are changing a bit of the map. But yeah, it's you can cross over to that middle island, but I can cut through the water, kind of back up the way a little bit. But nonetheless, it's done. I didn't have time really for a massive mission tonight, and I wanted to kind of go a different way on the map than just straight up the middle, like I've sort of had to do on a fair few missions. So yeah, it was a good excuse. Money-wise, not terrible, 6,000, not great, but I've seen worse paying missions on this phase really for the amount of work needed. Yeah, get the goddamn horse back in there, winch him up, floor it, and he's in. Yeah, that's about it for today though. I hope you've enjoyed, I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Get yourself a loaf, because he is a goddamn beast, and I'll be back soon.